Welcome, students. In this introductory lecture, I will provide you some basic facets on the same three core 6 paper of economic botany. Initially, in this lecture, at first, I must mention that what actually economic botany deals with. The economic botany deals with the various application of numerous types of botanical knowledge and the subsequent application for the betterment of the human society. As we all know, that food, clothing, and shelter, these three are the most essential requirement for human beings. And among the three, food is the most important one. We can use cereals like rice, wheat, maize, oat, rye, barley, etc. We can use millets, sorghum, and others. We can use pulses, vegetables, and fruits for this purpose. We have to use fibers for preparing clothing and for other economical activities. We must mention, in this case, the name of cotton, jute, etc. for this particular purpose. To prepare shelter, initially civilized human population use various types of forest products, mostly wood, bamboo, etc. So in this way, the journey begins. Here, I provide the detailed unit-wise breakup of the economic botany syllabus constructed by the West Bengal State University for the undergraduate courses. And there are total 11 units. And in the today introductory class, I'll provide you some overall idea, and today I start the discussion on classification of fibers based on their origin. So firstly, I must mention that what actually origin of cultivated plants explains. There are one of the important concept. This is known as Vavilov concept or centers of origin concept. So what actually he explained? The centers of origin is a geographical area where a specific group of organisms, first expressed as a domesticated or in a wild condition, with its distinctive attributes. And the eminent Russian scientist, Sir Nikolai Ivanovich Vavilov, proposed centers of origin in this context. He proposed 8 centers of origin for crop plants, and he explained their natural relatives and the basis of this origin and classification also. In this unit, you have to study other important topics like introduction, plant introduction, how they introduce from one area to another. Then the crop domestication, that is the taming and training of these plants like animals. And the loss of genetic diversity. This is a threat because by using the various types of hybrids and high yielding varieties which we develop by plant breeding and the recently developed biotechnology and gene manipulation techniques, day by day we are less using our desi cultivars or the wild cultivars. So, in one hand, we have to preserve those initial stocks, and in other hand, to maintain the huge need, we can produce some high-yielding varieties with disease-resistant nature and other attributes. So we have to follow this two side by side. In Unit 2, it deals with some cereals, already I mentioned, wheat and rice, their origin, morphology, cultivation and uses, brief account on millets, Unit 3 on legumes, Unit 4 on sugars, sources of sugars and starches, morphology, processing of sugarcane products and the byproducts of the sugarcane industry. This is very important section for examination perspective. Then spices, listing of important spices, their family and parts use, economic importance, with special reference to some of the economical important spices, fennel, saffron, clove, and black pepper. And I want to specifically mention for this spices section and for all other sections that all students must follow the proper rule whenever they try to mention their scientific names of the plants. They have to recall, they have to understand the parts used, not the whole plant normally used. A specific part, maybe bark, maybe leaves, maybe fruits, and maybe other flower parts are used for their economical aspect. So you have to recall this. Along with, you have to mention the most important and specific economic or medicinal importance. Then Unit 6 deals with beverages, tea and coffee, their morphology, processing and uses. Again, this Unit 6 is one of the important portion for examination perspective and for understanding also. Then Unit 7, sources of oils and fats. Unit 8 on natural rubber, their production, processing and uses. Unit 9 deals with drug yielding plants, very very important for objective, short type and long type questions. Here to mention specifically some of the drug yielding plants like cinchona, digitalis, papaver, cannabis, etc. Then the timber plants, general account with special reference to teak, shal and pine. And again, I want to mention that for general description or the term general account, you have to explain the plant nature, whether it is a tree, whether it is a herb, whether it is a shrub, their morphological features, at least point-wise. Because you have to know the plant, you have to represent the plant. And finally, the most important outcome, after proper identification, you can use the plant for your personal and for the use of the society. You must know its proper and effective usage also, either in a crude form or in a processed mechanism. And the last one explains about fibers. Fibers are a special type of plant portions. They are sclerenchymatous in origin, and here we study their origin and the type of classification depending on their origin. Then We can study the cotton and jute morphology, their extraction and use process. This is also very important for short note or long type questions. Now, if we want to classify fibers depending on their origin, so firstly, a fiber is a thin thread of a natural or artificial substance. If we consider plant fiber, as I mentioned earlier, sclerogamata cells, they are grouped or bundled together. They are long with cells with thick walls, and they are correspondingly with small cavities and usually with some pointed walls, usually. The fibers may be found in any part of the plant, like stems in some cases leaves, from roots, fruits, and seeds, etc. This is a written classification or gist for this portion. I prepared this material from the book Economic Botany book by B.P. Pandey, Economic Botany book by Kochler, and some web sources. So if we want to classify the plant fibers based on their origin, initially they are of two types: natural fibers and man-made fibers. The natural fibers can be classified into vegetative source or vegetable fibers, animal fibers, or mineral fibers. Under the vegetable fibers, we can use cotton or kapuk. Here, the seed is the economic important part. Jute, hemp, remi, your flask is important. Seashell, pineapple, banana, your leaf is used as a fiber. And for koi, your fruit is important and used as fiber. For animal part, wool and silk are two important fiber from animal origin. I think many of us can recall the name of the proteins. What do we have studied in our 11th or 12th standard books under the sericulture chapter? That is the fibroin and sericin. Okay. Then under the mineral type of fibers, we can show you the example of asbestos. And if you want to consider the man-made type of fibers, there are of three types. One derived from natural feedstock like viscose rayon, rubber, etc. Second one derived from manufactured feedstock like nylon 6 as an example, nylon 66, and polyester, the very, very important one. And for miscellaneous purposes and miscellaneous type under this category, you can mention the name of metal or glass fibers. So when they ask you the question of classification of fiber depending on their origin, at first you have to provide a basic idea or concept what actually fiber is. Then you can explain the types of fibers by a flowchart. You can obviously mention the examples and their parts used, and then you can shortly explain these types of fibers. Here I explained the vegetable fibers, animal fibers, mineral fibers, and in the next slide, the various types of man-made fibers. So you can follow this short note and conceptualize the idea about fiber and their classification depending on their origin. For this economic botany paper, initially you can follow your textbook, either college botany or the botany book by Height and Height. or other established botany books, textbooks. And for reference purpose, you can follow this book, Economic Botany book by Kochler. You can purchase also, but I will provide you some of the important sections and portions from this book in the Google Classroom portion of a department. You can directly use that portion, or you can purchase or follow this book also from the college library, and you can purchase also. This is also a very good book, Economic Botany by B.P. Pandey. So, for today's understanding, I'll provide you some understanding basic features of this paper, their respective units, outline understanding. Along with, I will discuss the last portion or last unit, that is the unit 1, classification of fiber depending on their origin. So in my next class video, I will discuss the other remaining parts from the 11 unit, that is jute, its processing, fiber nature, economic importance, etc. So best of luck for this new session. Go through your textbook. This is the most important advice. Then you can follow the reference book, the material provided by our respected faculty members, and try to practice the scientific names, especially their spelling, and follow the rules whenever you want to mention the scientific names. Thank you.